When are you from your engagement with the President this morning?
Well, it's been a wonderful engagement. I came to brief His Excellency about the WTO and the work that is ongoing, and to talk about how the WTO might be supportive to the continent. And also asked His Excellency to support some of the work we're doing on some of the negotiations like fisheries, what we're doing on health, and trying to, on COVID, trying to get manufacturers of vaccines to come into the country and into the continent. So these were some of the things we talked about.
In line with that, you actually mentioned recently that manufacturing and trade is critical to solving the pandemic and climate change issues. Can you expatiate on how you want to use this narrative during this conference?
Well, what we're trying to do, the fact that on the African continent, less than 4% of us have been vaccinated, whereas in the rich countries, close to 58% have been vaccinated, is not something that really is good for the world. Why? Because we have all these variants that are circulating. And if you don't vaccinate people, they'll just migrate from unvaccinated to the vaccinated. So what we're saying is, in order to solve this problem, we have to produce more vaccines, and then we have to distribute them equitably to parts of the world that don't have. And that's the narrative. At the WTO, what we're doing is actually working directly with the manufacturers. We're helping them monitor their supply chains, which are very complicated, to see what are the bottlenecks they have, what are the regulatory issues they face, how can we facilitate trade. Because moving supplies from one place to the other for the manufacturer is trade. How can we facilitate this for them? In return, we're asking them to deconcentrate production and go to those parts of the world where they have and invest. For example, on the African continent, we don't want to continue importing 99% of vaccines that we use or 90% of our pharmaceuticals, so they should invest. And I think it's working. Pfizer announced a $100 million investment in South Africa recently. We're also looking at Nigeria. We're the largest country, and His Excellency, Mr. President, also wants to develop manufacturing. So we want to support that. We've been working with the Honorable Minister of Health to see what we can attract, the investment we can attract to Nigeria.
What kind of support do you want from President Buhari?
Oh, first on the vaccines, just for the government to be able to work well with the private sector. Vaccines are like a public good. So they also need investment from the government to match part of what the private sector is doing. We need demand. Vaccine producers will not produce unless they know that the vaccines are going to be purchased. And so, the fact if Nigeria can aggregate its demand, then that will help to persuade them to invest. And I think the Honorable Minister of Health is leading a task force of which I'm a member. The Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, is a member, Kia Adeshino, and Mohammed Pate. We're all trying to help from the outside to see how we can move things for investment.
Is there a timeline you're hoping to see significant impact of this?
Investing in vaccines takes time. So it's not right away, but in 2 to 3 years, hopefully we will see the fruits of some of this. Nigeria had already planned to have a plant with bio-vaccines, is working with some other investors, and we're trying to help push that as well. So in 2 to 3 years, hopefully we'll be able to see the fruits of this labor.
Thank you very much.